The morning begins like many others in the city. Sunlight slides between tall buildings and lands in long stripes on the sidewalk. A bus sighs at the corner. A bakery door opens, and warm air with the smell of fresh bread rolls out onto the street. School children in bright backpacks hurry past a row of newspaper stands. A cyclist rings a bell, and a delivery van rattles over a pothole, making a metallic clatter that briefly drowns out everything else. It is busy, but it is an ordinary kind of busy, the kind people know and trust. In the middle of this moving scene walks Amara Cole. She wears a plain navy dress, low heels, and a light gray coat because the morning air is still cool. Her hair is tied back. She carries a canvas tote with a folder, a paperback novel, and a paper map that she folded and refolded so many times the creases are as white as chalk. She is heading to a small community legal clinic, the kind that opens its doors to anyone who needs help filling out forms, understanding a letter, or finding a safe path forward. She goes there on many weekends, not to be praised, not to be seen, but because it feels right to her. She likes the walk. It clears her mind after a full week of reading cases and writing careful opinions. She chooses the long route because she wants to stop by the park first and leave a book in the little free library. It is a simple habit, trade one book for another and keep stories moving. At the corner near the bus stop, Amara pauses. Her phone battery is low, so she unfolds the paper map. A small gust of wind catches the edge, and she presses it flat with her palm against the glass of a closed shop. The no loitering sign above her head reflects in the window. She runs a finger along the street names, tracing a short path that will take her to a side alley, then to the clinic's back door, because the front door sometimes sticks. The city noise swells again, horns, voices, a burst of laughter. She reads the map carefully. When she is focused, the rest of the world turns soft around the edges, and she is calm. A patrol car slows at the curb. Officer Brent Hale is on his routine morning loop. He has worked this area for years. He tells himself he knows it well, who belongs, who lingers, who is just passing through. He is alert, a little tense, as he often is at the start of his shift. He sees Amara standing alone near the shop window and the sign. He sees the paper in her hands but does not see that it is a map. He notices her glance up and down the street and reads it as watchful rather than thoughtful. He turns down the radio a notch, pulls the car fully over, and steps out. "Ma'am," he says. His voice competes with an approaching bus and a blast of wind. The map crackles in Amara's hands. She does not turn. People move around them, a living river, unaware that a small moment is being set. Officer Hale tries again, closer. "Ma'am, can I speak with you a second?" Amara hears a voice this time, but the words are still shaped by traffic noise. She turns, folding the map neatly, the edges meeting with a soft clap. She takes a small step back so she is not blocking the shop door in case someone needs to pass. She is careful, as she is in most things. "Good morning," she says. "Is there a problem, officer?" "I asked you a question," he says, a bit louder now, because he believes his first greeting was ignored. He stands with his hands near his belt. He has done this hundreds of times. He thinks of it as a stance of readiness. To others, it can look like a stance of warning. "I didn't hear you before," Amara says in a steady voice. "What is this about?" "I'll need to see some ID," he replies, because in his mind this is a simple first step. Ask for ID, run a quick check, keep the block moving. It has become a script, one he follows without always reading the scene line by line. Amara keeps her hands visible, palms open at her sides. She learned long ago that small gestures can lower heat in a tense moment. She learned it in courtrooms, in community meetings, even at family dinners when people talked over each other. "Can you please tell me the reason for the stop?" she asks. "Then I can respond." "ID first," he says, firm now. His words carry a finality he does not feel. He is not fully sure what he is looking for, he only knows he wants to set control early. He glances up at the no loitering sign and back to her. You're standing in a posted area. I'm on my way, Amara says, still calm. I paused for a moment to check a map. If there is another reason, please state it. A bus doors open with a hiss beside them. A few passengers step down and skirt around the two, forming a small arc of space on the sidewalk. One teenager hangs back, holding a phone loosely at his side. He pretends to check messages but tilts the camera up just enough to frame the scene. He is not sure what he is catching, only that his friends told him it is smart to record if something feels tense. The bus driver watches in the side mirror, the angle catching two bodies and a handful of shadows. Officer Hale hears himself ask a third time. ID. He realizes he has not given a clear reason beyond the sign, and he feels slightly off balance. The easiest way to feel stable, he thinks, is to sound firm. He takes a small step closer. Amara recognizes the step. She has seen body language like this from attorneys eager to push past doubts. She has seen it from frightened people trying to appear brave. She knows that closeness can be mistaken for control. She lifts the map, showing it. I am not refusing to identify myself, she says. I am asking you to explain the reason I'm being stopped. I believe I have the right to know. Once you tell me, I'm happy to comply. A street vendor, setting up a cart with bottles of water and oranges, pauses mid-motion. A bottle slips and thuds against the crate. He looks over and then looks down at his hands as if to tell them not to make any more noise. A woman with a stroller adjusts her route to give space. The cyclist who rang the bell earlier loops back and slows, foot on the curb, a silent witness disguised as someone checking a tire. Hale feels the crowd's eyes as a weight. He does not like performing for people. He would prefer warnings to be brief and clean, a quick correction on a quiet street with no one to judge his choices. He tells himself that if the woman had simply handed over her ID, he could have sent her on her way by now. The thought makes him impatient. He mistakes impatience for urgency. Ma'am, he says, drawing in a breath, I need your ID now. Amara senses the air tighten. She thinks of the clinic, of the people who will be waiting with letters and questions. She thinks of the lessons she repeats to students and neighbors: stay calm, ask for the reason, keep your hands visible, speak clearly. She thinks about speaking her title out loud to end this quickly. She could say it in a single sentence, and the moment would fold. But she also thinks of something else, something stronger. If an encounter depends on a title, what does that say about people without one? She decides to hold that sentence back. She will stand as a citizen here, not as a judge. She believes policy should protect everyone the same way. Please state the reason, she says again, her voice even, her breathing slow. She keeps the map between them like a visible fact. She is a person who paused to find her way. A gust lifts the corner of the map. She presses it down with a finger, and the simple act feels like holding a place in a book, like refusing to lose the line. The teenager raises the phone a little higher. A faint red light on a lapel camera blinks. The bus at the curb closes its doors and pulls away, leaving a cleaner sound field in its wake. For a brief second, the city quiets, as if waiting to see which way this moment will tip. Hale notices the phone. He feels heat rise in his neck. He thinks of stories he has seen online and how quickly a clip can turn into a message he cannot control. He is not thinking about process as much as he is thinking about being watched. He tries to pull the encounter back onto the rails he knows. This area has had incidents. We can't have people standing around. ID. Standing for a moment is not a crime, Amara says. If there is a specific incident you're investigating, please say so. I want to cooperate within the law. Her words are simple, but they rest on a careful frame. She does not raise her voice. She does not rush. She gives him room to explain, but she does not surrender her right to understand. The vendor nods to himself almost imperceptibly, as if to say yes, that is how it should be, clear request, clear reason. A second patrol car rolls by on the far side of the street, not stopping, just passing. Its reflection slides over the shop window behind Amara, a brief wash of blue and white. The crosswalk signal begins to chirp for pedestrians who cannot see. In that strange chorus, the chirp, the distant siren, the soft clink of bottles in a crate, the sidewalk seems to hold its breath. Hale's stance grows rigid. He is used to being the one who sets the next step. He senses his own uncertainty and covers it with instruction. He reaches for words that sound official. Failure to comply, he says, but even as he says it, he knows compliance follows clarity. He has not given the clarity. He hopes the phrase itself will be enough. Amara tilts her head slightly, not defiant, just focused, as if she is reading a line of text that does not quite make sense and wants to see it again. "Officer," she says, "I am asking for the reason for the stop. Please tell me. Then I will respond as needed." Her calm now is not only for herself, it is also for the people watching. She understands how moments like this teach, for better or worse. She knows the teenager with the phone will carry the scene into his day, into his conversations with friends. She wants him to see what patience looks like. She wants him to see what a right sounds like when it is spoken clearly, without anger, without fear. The wind shifts. A newspaper page skitters across the pavement and presses against the toe of Hale's boot. He shakes it free, and it flutters off like a bird that forgot how to fly. He looks at the map in her hand, at the careful creases, at the way she holds it so neatly you might think it is something precious rather than a simple guide. For a flash, he feels the smallest doubt, like a pebble in a shoe. Then the crowd's attention presses on him again, and the pebble feels like a challenge. He decides to close the distance by a half step. It is not a large move, but it feels large in the narrow space they share. The teenager's phone tilts up. The vendor sets the last bottle down quietly. Amara makes a choice with her breath: inhale slowly, exhale slowly, and say nothing in that instant. She will not speak over him if he finally chooses to explain. She is leaving a clean lane for a reason to meet her. "Last time," Hale says, his voice tight, "the sunlight, still climbing, touches the top edges of the buildings and spills down another inch, bright enough now to make the shop window glare. Amara sees her reflection in it, a small figure made of light and shadow, holding a map, facing a man in uniform. She steadies her fingers on the paper and turns her face back to him. "Please," she says, with the same steady tone, "tell me why I'm being stopped." For a moment, everything is balanced on the thin edge between explanation and escalation. The bus has gone. The crosswalk chirp stops. The city inhales again. The next second will set the shape of the day, and no one on the sidewalk, not the vendor, not the cyclist, not the teenager, not even the officer, knows which way it will go. Amara knows only this: she will stand in her rights, calmly, clearly, and let the next moment show itself. The moment tips the wrong way with a very small move. Officer Hale reaches out, meaning to guide Amara to the side so the sidewalk stays clear. She raises her hands a little higher to show she is calm and not a threat. The two motions meet in a narrow space, and because both of them are trying to make different points at the same time, he is trying to control, she is trying to be understood, their signals cross. His fingers brush her sleeve, and he pulls. Her heel catches the low edge of a loose brick near the curb. She stumbles. He tries to steady her, but his grip is poor, and the forward pull becomes a downward drop. Amara lands hard on one knee and one hand. The map slides from her palm like a quiet bird and lands face down, a corner folding under. For a heartbeat, the whole block gasps and freezes. The vendor's hand stops over a crate. The cyclist's foot stays pressed to the curb. The teenager's phone tilts, and the frame wobbles, but he keeps recording. In that frozen breath, traffic noise dulls, and the moment is very clear: a woman on the ground, a uniformed officer standing above her, and a circle of strangers learning whether they will look away or look closer. Amara breathes in. The ground is cool through the thin fabric at her knee. She feels a bright sting where her palm met the rough sidewalk. She looks up at the officer. Her voice stays steady, though it has to climb a short hill to get there. "I am okay," she says first, because that sentence helps everyone gather their calm. Then she adds, "I will cooperate. Please tell me the reason for the stop." Hale's face tightens. He did not mean to make her fall. He did not plan harm. But the sight of bystanders and the red blink of his own camera press on him like a hand between his shoulder blades. He tells himself to speak with authority, because authority sounds like safety to him. "You weren't following instructions," he says, though the words feel like a borrowed coat that does not fit right. "Sir," the bus driver calls from the door, voice even, "she just slipped." He speaks softly, like someone who is used to smoothing trouble before it grows. He keeps his hands on the railing, not wanting to crowd the scene, but he does not look away. "Do not interfere," Hale says, too quickly. The second patrol car that passed earlier returns and stops half a block away. A younger officer steps out, scans the scene, and approaches with a measured pace. He glances once at Amara, once at Hale, and once at the small ring of onlookers who, without planning it, have formed a light barrier of attention. Amara lifts herself to sit on the low curb. She does not rush to stand, she listens to her body first. Her knee throbs. Her palm is scraped, more messy than serious, with a few gray specks of grit. She keeps her other hand open and visible on her lap. "I would like medical attention," she says clearly. "And I would like your badge number. Please." Hale answers with the number. His voice is flat, stretched between duty and discomfort. The younger officer notes it on a small pad and kneels on the other side of Amara, a careful distance away. "Ma'am, are you hurt anywhere else?" he asks in a calm tone. "Do you feel dizzy? Any head pain?" "My knee and hand," she says. "I'm steady otherwise." She nods toward the map on the ground. "May I pick that up?" "I'll get it," the younger officer says. He lifts the paper by one clean corner and sets it beside her on the curb, edges aligned, small kindness in the precision. Hale radios for paramedics and backup because that is what the book says to do when someone is down and a crowd is watching. His fingers tremble slightly on the radio even though his voice is controlled. He does not want to look flustered, but he feels it. He wants the next steps to come from outside him, from the neat square of a protocol card, from someone who will place a border around the scene and turn it into lines he can follow. The teenager with the phone steps 2 paces back to let the paramedics approach when they arrive. He keeps recording, but now his camera holds more faces: the woman on the curb, the first officer, stiff, the second officer, steady, 2 paramedics with soft voices and brisk hands, the bus driver still waiting, because he knows a person who sees something should finish seeing it, the vendor, who slides a bottle of water to the curb like a tiny offering, and the college student, who has been there the whole time, earbuds out, eyes sharp. The paramedic kneels. "Hi, I'm Mara," she says, easy and warm. "Can I take a look at your hand?" She examines the scrape, cleans it with a small swipe that stings and then eases. She wraps a light bandage that leaves fingers free. "Knee next," she says. She presses gently around the kneecap, checks range of motion. "You'll have a bruise," she says. "I recommend we get you checked at the hospital just to be safe. Do you feel comfortable standing with help?" "I can stand," Amara says, "but I would like to be evaluated at the hospital." She looks at the younger officer. "May I have the incident number, please?" "We will provide it," he says, already writing. He adds the time, the location, a brief note. He does not fill the box for reason for stop yet. He leaves it open, because he wants to hear Hale say it. Hale's jaw moves as if he is chewing a thought. He hears the paramedic recommend hospital evaluation. He hears the younger officer ask about the reason. He hears the city move around them again, the engines, the footsteps, the murmur of people telling each other what they think they saw. His own thoughts are louder than all of it. He could say, "No loitering." He could say, "Officer safety." But the words scrape together like two pieces of the wrong puzzle. He delays them. Amara takes the offered hand of the paramedic to stand. The teenager lowers the camera slightly, giving her space, but keeps it on. The vendor places the water bottle near her feet and steps back, palms open, a gesture that says, "It is yours if you want it, no pressure." "Thank you," Amara says, and her thanks lands like a calm note in a busy song. She turns to Hale. "I will go with the paramedics now. I would like your name and badge number one more time, clearly, for my notes." He repeats them. The younger officer repeats the incident number. The college student, who has quietly opened the notes app on her phone, writes each detail down as well. She is not sure if she will be needed, but she wants to be ready. "I have ID with my name," Amara says to the younger officer. She takes out a simple card from a small wallet. It has her name and a photo. It does not include her title or where she works. "You may copy it for your report. Please return it before I leave." "Of course," he says. He photographs the card with his department phone, angle straight, no shadows. He shows her the image so she can confirm it is clear. He hands the card back. Hale watches each careful step as if the scene belongs to someone else now. In a way, it does. It belongs to the checklist, to the camera, to the witnesses, to the person who fell and stood again, and to the person who will have to write down why that happened. He presses the push to talk on his radio, releases it, presses again, and lets it go. He does not have the right words yet. A small ripple passes through the onlookers as the paramedics guide Amara to the ambulance. It is not a rush, it is a gentle tide. The bus driver gives a short nod, satisfied that she is in good hands, and climbs back into his seat. The cyclist rolls slowly forward, then stops at the corner to keep watching until the ambulance doors close. The vendor picks up the map, smooths its bent corner, and trots the few steps to hand it to the younger officer, who passes it to Amara just before she steps up. "Thank you," she says again, folding it along its old, faithful lines. Before the doors close, Amara looks back once more. Her eyes meet the teenager's. "Keep your video," she says in a clear, even tone. "You may be asked to share it later." She does not tell him what to do with it beyond that. She trusts that truth likes daylight. "I got it," he says, half proud, half solemn. He has never been part of something like this. He feels the weight of being useful, and it makes him stand a little taller. The doors close. The ambulance pulls away with no siren, just lights. Inside, the paramedic checks Amara's blood pressure, asks about medications, allergies, past injuries. Amara answers simply. Her hands are folded on her lap, and the bandage makes a small white flag against her skin. She thinks of the clinic and hopes someone has unlocked the front door by now, so the visitors are not waiting in the hallway. She thinks of the young officer's careful tone and the bus driver's cool, steady voice. She thinks of the vendor's quiet gift of water and the student's focused eyes. She files each detail in her mind the way she files details from testimony, where people stood, what they said, what they did not say, what their bodies did without words. Back on the sidewalk, the younger officer turns to Hale. "What was the reason for the initial stop?" he asks, not rude, not soft, just professional. He needs the answer to fill the box in his notes, and he wants the answer to be honest, because honest notes survive daylight. Hale swallows. No loitering, he says, starting with the sign because it is the easiest hook to catch. She was standing under a posted sign. This area has had incidents. Did you observe any specific suspicious behavior? The younger officer asks. Hale thinks of the map he didn't notice at first, the way she glanced up and down the street, the way he read that as watchful in the wrong way. He thinks of the missing step, a clear explanation before a demand. She did not answer initially, he says, and even as he says it, he hears how the noise of the city makes that a weak thread to pull. The younger officer nods, not agreeing, just recording. Did you state the reason for the stop before requesting ID? Hale opens his mouth and closes it. He wants to claim he did. He wants to say the words came out in the right order. But the scene replays in his head: the bus hiss, the wind, the exchanged lines, and he cannot make that claim without stepping into something worse. I asked for ID, he says. The teenager, still near enough to hear, looks at his phone and at the younger officer. He does not interrupt. He is not part of the report. But he files away the line for later. The student watches, too, her thumb still over her notes app, her face bright with the kind of attention that makes facts stick. Internal affairs is not there yet, but the city already is, through cameras, through eyes, through the slow, patient recording of details. The younger officer finishes his initial page, draws a line under it, and writes the incident number again at the top. He asks Hale to write his own account as soon as possible, to be precise, to be complete. Hale nods. He looks down at his hands. He flexes them once, as if they have been holding something heavy for a long time and have finally put it down. I'll write it now, he says. The teenager pockets his phone, takes one last look at the place where the map lay on the sidewalk, and heads toward school with a new story to tell, but not the kind that fades by lunch. The vendor wipes the top of the water bottles with a clean rag, sets out the oranges in a row, and hums a low tune because humming helps him think. The cyclist pushes off the curb and glides away, shaking his head a little, not in anger, more in the way of someone who has seen a lesson arrive in public and hopes it will be learned. In the ambulance, Amara sits very still. The city flickers past the rear windows in bright slices: traffic lights, brick walls, a woman carrying a bouquet, a man jogging with a dog, a hand-painted sign for a lost cat. She feels the steady thrum of the engine and matches her breath to it: in, out, in, out. She lets the morning arrange itself in her memory with care, not rushing to label it beyond what she knows for sure. She will ask for the incident number again at the hospital. She will request copies of reports. She will follow the steps any person should be able to follow. She will not pull rank. Titles should not be the way out of a bad moment. Rights should be. The paramedic finishes her notes. You're doing great, she says. We'll be there in a couple of minutes. Thank you, Amara replies. She looks at the bandage again. It is a small square of white, neat, and firm. It reminds her that even small wounds need clean care, and that careful work is not dramatic but it is strong. She feels the rhythm of the city steady itself around her. The morning is moving forward. So is she. The hospital room is bright and calm, with a window that lets in soft daylight and the leafy tops of trees from the street below. A nurse with a steady voice and careful hands helps Amara sit on the edge of the bed. She checks the bandage on Amara's palm, presses gently around the knee, and notes the range of motion. A second nurse rolls in a small cart with a blood pressure cuff and a tablet for intake. The paramedic gives a short report, thanks Amara for her patience, and steps out. The room settles into a quiet rhythm: questions asked, answers given, details typed, vital signs recorded. It is the opposite of the sidewalk: no horns, no wind, no crowd, just the hum of air and the soft squeak of rubber soles. Any allergies? The nurse asks. None, Amara says. Are you on any regular medications? No. Do you feel dizzy? Headache? Any nausea? I'm steady. Just soreness in the knee and the hand. The nurse nods. We'll get an X-ray to be sure there's no fracture. It looks like a deep bruise, but we'll confirm. I'll also page the attending for a brief exam. While the nurse types, the intake clerk verifies identification and insurance. The tablet screen shows Amara's full name as it appears on official records, along with her employment field. The clerk reads, pauses, and then reads again to be sure she is seeing it correctly. She looks up with her professional smile, the kind that respects privacy and also speaks of care. Thank you, Judge Cole, she says in a neutral tone, as if the title is just another fact, like eye color or height. She does not make a fuss. She treats it as a detail that matters for accuracy, not status. Amara returns the smile, small and courteous. Please note that I'm here as any citizen would be, she says gently. I would like the standard process. Of course, the clerk replies. She finishes the entries and steps out to let the nurse continue. The attending physician arrives, reviews the notes, and asks the same careful questions. He presses around the knee, orders the X-ray, and reassures Amara that most such injuries heal well with rest and simple care. He asks if she would like someone called to meet her. Amara declines for now. I'll make my own calls after the X-ray, she says. Her voice is even. She has the calm of someone who trusts steps and timelines. While she waits for the X-ray tech, her phone buzzes on the bedside table. She had charged it in the ambulance with a short cable from the paramedics kit, just enough to bring it back to life. Now it lights up with a line of messages from colleagues and friends. The first reads, "Are you okay?" The next, "Saw a clip, please confirm." Another, "We are here if you need us." The questions arrive before the explanations because that is how information travels now, a spark, then a wave, then the slow building of facts. Amara opens the first message, types a brief reply, "I'm okay. At the hospital for evaluation. Will update when I know more." She keeps her words simple. She does not want to fill the space with heat or with early judgments. She believes clarity grows best in clean air. Across town, the teenager who filmed the encounter has already sent the video to his older sister, who studies media ethics at a nearby college. She advises him to keep the original file safe, not to edit it, not to add captions that might tilt the viewer. Let the video speak, she says. She also suggests he email himself the file and note the time and place so he will have a clear record if anyone asks later. The teenager feels the responsibility and follows each step carefully. He does not post it publicly yet. He wants to do this right. Still, other phones were recording too, and within an hour a shorter clip, shaky but recognizable, appears on a neighborhood forum. It shows the moment of the fall, the bus doors, the small circle of witnesses. Captions are simple: "Morning stop near 5th and Norton. Anyone know what happened?" Replies gather like small stones dropped in a pond. "I was on that bus," one person writes. "I saw a woman holding a map." Another, "The officer sounded upset." Another, "The second officer was calm." The thread is not a trial, it is a neighborhood trying to place itself in a true story. At the precinct, the sergeant has been monitoring the morning channel. He gets a call from the hospital asking for the incident number for the patient they just admitted for evaluation. The name catches his attention, the title makes him sit up straight. He calls internal affairs to flag the case. He also calls Hale into his office. Hale arrives with his written statement partly done, the lines neat but short. He has already described the time, the location, and his request for ID. He has not yet finished the section about the reason for the stop. He stands in front of the sergeant's desk, uniform crisp, face pale with a kind of tiredness that does not come from lack of sleep. It comes from a timeline that cannot be rolled back. "Sit," the sergeant says. His voice is quiet. He waits until Hale is in the chair and the door is closed. The person you encountered is Judge Amara Cole. Hale blinks. He says nothing for a second because he needs that second to understand what he just heard. Then the heat rises in his neck again, but this heat is different, it is the heat of fear. He imagines headlines, he imagines meetings with people who speak in careful sentences that weigh more than they sound. He imagines his report becoming a public document. The sergeant continues. Internal Affairs will review the body cam footage. They will also collect any bystander videos. You will provide your full account, precise and complete. Do you understand? Yes, Hale says. His mouth is dry. Yes, Sergeant. Did you state the reason for the stop before requesting ID? The sergeant asks, the same question the younger officer asked at the scene. Hale swallows. I asked for ID, he says. I referenced the no loitering sign. Did you state a specific reason? The sergeant repeats. I did not state a specific incident, Hale admits. The truth lands on the desk like a small heavy object, plain, solid, and not easy to move. Then write what happened, the sergeant says. Do not add what you wish had happened. Do not shape the order of events to make them cleaner. Write what happened. Hale nods. He leaves the office and returns to his statement. He writes each line slowly, feeling the weight of sequence: greeting, request, question, request again, the step forward, the slip, the fall, the radio call, the ambulance. He writes that the bystanders remained calm. He writes that the second officer kept a steady tone. He writes that he did not provide a clear reason for the stop before he asked for ID. Each sentence is both a record and a mirror. Internal Affairs arrives within the hour and requests the body cam files. They follow chain of custody procedures, sign out the evidence, and move to a quiet room with a monitor. Two investigators sit side by side and press play. The footage begins with the soft sway of the camera and the sound of street noise. It shows the first greeting, partly lost under the hiss of the bus, then the second greeting, louder. It shows Amara turn, fold the map, and ask in a measured voice, is there a problem? It shows the reply of ID, please, and then her request for the reason. It shows the small dance between two different scripts, a citizen asking for clarity, an officer asking for compliance. It shows the step, the slip, the fall, the quick radio call for medical help. It shows the teenager holding a phone, the vendor stepping back, the second officer arriving and asking questions in a steady pace. The investigators pause and rewind several times to check the phrases and the spacing between them. They note that Amara asks for the reason 3 times, in the same even tone. They note that the officer never states a specific cause beyond the posted sign. They note that he asks for ID first, which is not forbidden in all cases, but becomes a problem if no clear reason is given. They note that the second officer immediately asked about cause and procedure. They write down the badge numbers, the time stamps, the presence of witnesses, the arrival of paramedics, the request for an incident number. Their notes are not angry or soft, they are exact. Back at the hospital, the X-ray shows no fracture. The attending reviews the image with Amara, pointing out the shadows and lines that mean bone and joint. Rest, ice, compression, elevation, he says, the simple steps that heal small harms. He writes a short note for her records. He asks if she has a ride home. She says she will arrange one after she completes the necessary calls. Amara makes 2 calls from the quiet corner of the room. The first is to file a formal complaint. She gives the incident number, the time, the place, and a simple summary of events. She requests that all body cam footage be preserved and that witness names be recorded. She does not mention her title or her workplace beyond what is required for contact information. The second call is to the community legal clinic. She thanks the volunteer who picked up the phone and explains that she will not arrive this morning. Please let the visitors know the clinic is open and they will be seen, she says. Tell them I will come another day this week. The volunteer assures her it will be handled. Amara hears the soft, busy sounds of the clinic in the background, paper rustle, a low voice, the click of a pen, and feels a warm thread of normal life pull through the day. As she sets the phone down, the nurse returns with discharge instructions and a copy of the medical notes. We'll send the X-ray report to your primary care as well, the nurse says. Do you need help contacting anyone else? I'm all set, Amara replies. Thank you for your care. While the morning moves forward, the small clip on the neighborhood forum has grown into a fuller picture. Someone posts a still image from later in the scene showing the incident number being given to Amara. A local reporter, careful and known for accuracy, reaches out on the forum asking anyone with first-hand information to message privately. She also puts in a formal request to the department for comment. The department replies that an internal review is underway and that they will share updates when appropriate. The younger officer from the scene writes his own account with the same care he showed on the sidewalk. He includes that the person on the curb requested medical attention, that the first officer provided badge information when asked, and that the reason for the initial stop was not clearly stated at the time. He does not add feelings or guesses. He writes what he saw and what he heard. Hale finishes his statement and reads it twice before signing. He feels like he is standing at the edge of a short, steep hill, knowing he must walk down and cannot skip any steps. The sergeant thanks him for completing it and reminds him that Internal Affairs will schedule an interview. Hale nods, says yes, Sergeant, and returns to his desk. He stares at the blank corner of the room and thinks about how small choices, one step, one missing sentence, shape larger outcomes. He thinks of the phrase "explain first," and how light it is as a rule, and how heavy its absence feels now. In the afternoon, Internal Affairs calls Amara to confirm her complaint and to arrange a time for a statement. She agrees to meet when she is rested. She asks for the standard list of rights and procedures and receives it by email within minutes. She reads it carefully, marking a few lines with virtual highlights the way she would mark a case, chain of evidence, witness outreach, timeline for review. She respects the process, she also expects it to be followed. Before she leaves the hospital, the paramedic who rode with her pokes her head into the doorway. Just wanted to check on you, she says with a kind smile. How's the knee? Better with the wrap, Amara says. Thank you for the quick care. You're welcome, the paramedic says. Take it easy today. Amara steps into the corridor with a measured pace, the map folded neatly in her tote. The edges are still soft from years of use, and one corner bears the smallest smear where the street grid touched it. She does not rub it off. She keeps it as it is, a true mark from a true morning. As she moves toward the elevator, her phone buzzes again. More messages. More questions. More kind offers. She answers a few with the same steady line, I'm okay. I will follow the process. Outside, the day is brighter. Traffic has found its afternoon rhythm. People carry coffees, tote bags, and afternoon plans. Amara breathes the open air, and in that breath there is both the weight of what happened and the lightness of what still can happen next, a fair review, a clear record, a community that learns, and a simple rule spoken at the right time, in the right tone, by everyone involved. Explain first. News of the incident keeps moving through the city like a tide that rises and resets the shoreline. People do not all agree on what the video shows, but many agree on what they hear in it, a clear voice asking for the reason for a stop, more than once, and a missing answer. In living rooms and break rooms, in buses and cafes, the same sentence is repeated in quiet tones. Explain first, as if the city has found a small rule it wants to remember. At the precinct, schedules change. Internal Affairs books interview rooms for several days. The training unit prints out transcripts of the body cam audio. The chief asks the legal advisor to pull the department's policy on pedestrian stops and mark where clarity is required. No one shouts. Instead, people gather documents and set chairs in circles, preparing for steady work. Amara, meanwhile, keeps her day simple. She rests her knee, holds ice to it when needed, and walks with an even, careful pace. She answers 2 more calls from investigators and provides a list of witnesses she remembers: the bus driver, the vendor with the water bottles, the cyclist, the college student, and the teenager with the steady phone. She gives only facts she knows and says when she does not know something. When colleagues reach out with strong opinions and heavy words, she replies with the same small sentence each time: I will follow the process. She does not ask anyone for special help, and she does not offer any threat. She wants the path in front of her complaint, review, findings to be the same path anyone could walk. A neighborhood group invites the department to attend a community meeting at the recreation hall 2 nights later. These gatherings usually draw 20 people. This one fills the room. Folding chairs line up in neat rows. On a table near the door sits a pitcher of water, paper cups, and a plate of simple cookies. A retired teacher volunteers to moderate. She is known for her firm kindness and her ability to keep people on topic without closing their hearts. The chief arrives with the training director, the precinct sergeant, and the younger officer from the morning. Across the aisle sit a school principal, a faith leader, 2 small business owners, and the teenager with his older sister. The reporter who asked for information sits in the back, notebook open, pen ready. The retired teacher opens with ground rules: 1 person speaks at a time, be specific, no personal insults, keep comments to 2 minutes, remember we are neighbors. People breathe out. The rules feel like a small fence that keeps the discussion from spilling into the street. The chief begins by describing the review process in plain language: collection of videos, statements from all involved, policy comparison, findings, consequences if warranted. He does not promise an outcome, but he promises a timeline and transparency within the law. He also says something that makes the room lean in. We will examine not only what happened, he says, but also what we teach. If we find gaps, we will close them. The teenager raises his hand. He does not stand, he speaks from his chair, voice steady. I recorded the whole time, he says. I didn't post it because my sister said to keep the original safe. If the review needs it, I will provide it. The chief thanks him. The older sister adds that they want to share it with the investigators first, not the whole internet. The room nods. People understand the value of slow, careful truth. A business owner asks about the posted signs and how they are used. The training director explains that a sign cannot replace a reason. We can ask people to move along, she says, but if we turn a moment into a stop, we must be able to say why, and we must say it first. A few heads tilt as if a simple piece has clicked into place. The bus driver raises a hand and says, in his calm voice, I heard the woman ask for the reason. The vendor adds, she kept her hands open. She spoke clearly. The college student says she took notes and will share them if needed. The younger officer, when asked, describes how he arrived and asked for the reason because he needed it for the report. He does not name his colleague or paint him with harsh colors. He tells the slice that was his to tell. As the meeting closes, the retired teacher suggests a small list the city can carry away from the night: explain first, use calm tone, keep distance until there is a clear danger, ask questions before reaching, call for medical attention quickly, thank witnesses who stay. No one claps. People simply write the list down, because lists like that work best when they are used, not celebrated. The chief thanks the room for its care. On his way out, he pauses to shake the teenager's hand and says, your careful choice matters. The next morning, the department holds a short press briefing. The chief states the facts without decorating them. An internal review is underway, the person involved has filed a complaint, the department has the body cam files and will interview witnesses, The officer's duty status is under review during the investigation. He says the training unit will perform a quick audit of recent stops to assess how often reasons are stated first and clearly. He also says the department will invite an outside trainer to review de-escalation content. Reporters ask for dates and documents. The chief provides what he can and promises to share more when he is allowed. He does not argue online. He does not try to out a rumor. He sticks to steps. Hale watches the briefing from a small room at the precinct. He has been temporarily reassigned to desk work while the review proceeds. He reads the policy again, the part about voluntary encounters, detentions, and expectations for communication. The words are not new to him, but they feel new now, as if they were hiding in plain sight and are only now stepping forward. He thinks of the way his voice sounded on the video, firm but empty of reason, and he understands something simple and hard: tone without clarity is pressure, and pressure without cause is not service. He writes the sentence in his notebook: clarity is the first tool. He stares at it until it is not just a sentence but a promise he cannot unsee. That afternoon, he asks the sergeant if he may send a written apology to Amara through the department's legal office. He does not ask for a private meeting. He understands that the process matters more than his comfort. The sergeant says the request will go through the proper channels. The legal advisor agrees to deliver any message as part of a structured option known as a restorative conference, available, if the other person consents, after the main facts have been established. It is not a shortcut, the advisor says. It is a way to hear and be heard while still accepting the outcome of the review. When the offer reaches Amara, she reads it twice. She does not feel hostility, she feels the weight of careful next steps. She replies that she is willing to participate in a structured session with a trained facilitator, observers from the community, and a representative from the training unit. She asks that the session be documented and that any agreement include actions that help others, not just words in a room. The legal advisor sends back a proposed plan: a 2-hour session at the community center, ground rules set in writing, a facilitator with experience in difficult conversations, and 2 observers chosen by the neighborhood group. Amara agrees. So does Hale. On the chosen day, the room is simple: a circle of chairs, a small table with water, and a whiteboard with 3 lines in clean letters: speak plainly. Listen fully. Leave with steps. The facilitator opens with calm instructions: each person will describe the moment from their point of view, then reflect on what they heard from the other, then propose actions. The room is quiet enough to hear the soft scratch of a pen on paper as the observer writes. Amara speaks first. She describes her morning, the map, the noise, the missed words, the request for a reason. She describes the fall as a small accident inside a larger problem, the missing explanation. She describes how the lack of reason changes how a person feels in their own city: less safe, less seen, less equal. She does not decorate the story or make it larger. She tells it in the same simple lines she used on the sidewalk. Hale speaks next. He describes his patrol, his assumptions, the sign, the way his mind reached for a script that skipped a step. He says he did not intend harm, and he says he understands that intention does not change the fact of the fall or the missing explanation. He says he felt watched and rushed and reacted to those feelings instead of to the actual person in front of him. He does not defend his choice. He describes it. The room hears truth more than guilt there, and truth gives them something to work with. The facilitator asks each to say one sentence that begins, "What I hear you saying is," Amara says, "What I hear you saying is that you defaulted to control when clarity was needed." Hale says, "What I hear you saying is that you asked for a simple, lawful explanation and did not receive it." The facilitator nods. Good. Now propose actions that would repair some part of the harm and reduce the chance of this happening again. Amara proposes that the department adopt a short, spoken script for stops: "Hello, I'm officer _____. The reason I'm stopping you is ______." Do you need me to repeat it? She proposes a training module where officers practice speaking the reason at different volumes and paces in quiet rooms, in noisy streets, with wind, with bus breaks, with all the interruptions of a real city. She proposes that the department share the script with the public so citizens know what to expect and can ask for it if it is missed. She also asks that the video, with consent from all involved and with faces of bystanders blurred, be used in training to discuss choices and better options. Hale proposes actions for himself. He asks to shadow the veteran officer known for excellent communication for a month. He asks to attend a community class on rights during police encounters, not as a speaker but as a student. He offers to sit on a panel with the training unit to help create the Explain First module, not as an expert but as someone who can say, I missed this step, do not miss it. He also offers to speak to new recruits about the pressure of being watched and how to turn that pressure into precision rather than urgency. The facilitator writes the proposals on the board. The observers ask 2 short questions for clarity. The training director, present in the back row, steps forward to say the department can pilot the script and training within a month. The chief, who has joined quietly near the end, says the department will publish a short sheet for the public, what to expect during a stop, including the promise that the reason comes first. He adds that the department will audit a random sample of stops each month for clarity of reason, tone, and distance before contact. The session ends with short, plain statements. Hale says, I am sorry. I failed to give the reason for the stop. I caused a fall. I will accept the outcome of the review and do the work we listed. Amaro says, I accept this apology and these steps. I will continue as a citizen in the process and will not preside over any matter related to this incident. The facilitator thanks them for speaking plainly. There is no handshake for show, there is a simple nod that feels more honest. After the session, the training director returns to the office and begins assembling the Explain First module. She asks the bus yard for permission to record engine and brake sounds to simulate noisy streets. She asks the community center to loan the big room on a weekend so officers can practice speaking over echoes. She invites the teenager, the vendor, and the bus driver to watch a rehearsal and give feedback from a citizen's ear. She does not treat them like props, she treats them like partners. In the days that follow, small changes become visible. Officers begin their interactions with a clear sentence even when the situation is simple. Good morning. I'm Officer Alvarez. I'm stopping you because this crosswalk is closed for construction. Please use the other side. People who hear that kind of sentence relax faster. They may still disagree about a ticket or a warning, but the fear that comes from mystery loosens its grip sooner. At roll call, the sergeant holds up a stack of small cards with the script printed on them. Keep it until it's muscle memory, he says. We're going to be the department that explains first. One afternoon, Amara walks past the little free library near the clinic. Her knee is better now, her steps are steady. She places a novel on the shelf and takes another in exchange. A neighbor recognizes her from the community meeting and thanks her for the way she spoke. You didn't make it about your job, the neighbor says. You made it about everyone's rights. Amara smiles and says, that's the only way it holds. Across town, Hale sits in a training room with a notebook open. On the first page he has written the sentence he cannot unsee. Around him, new recruits practice the script with the training director. He listens to them speak over recorded bus brakes and crowd noise and wind. He hears their voices find a rhythm that carries reason first. He knows there will still be hard days. He knows clarity cannot fix everything. But he also knows this, a clear reason given early can turn storms into conversations. And conversations are where communities breathe. The review reaches its final week with steady steps and clear pages. Internal Affairs has collected every video, every statement, every time stamp. They have listened to the same minute of audio more times than anyone would guess, not because they like repetition, but because careful work often looks like that slow, patient listening until the shape of the truth holds steady no matter which way you turn it. The training unit has already piloted the Explain First script with 3 squads. The community has held 2 more meetings, smaller this time, with more questions about practice than anger about headlines. The city feels like a place learning a new rhythm, one plain sentence at a time. On a calm morning, the chief calls a short press briefing. He does not bring a long speech. He brings a 1-page summary written in clean, simple language. He reads from it so that no one thinks he is decorating the message. Internal Affairs has completed its review of the pedestrian stop at 5th and Norton, he says. The findings are as follows. 1. The initial interaction did not include a clear statement of reason before a request for identification. 2. The physical contact that led to a fall occurred without a present danger that would justify moving the person without explanation. 3. The responding officers called for medical assistance promptly and remained on scene. 4. The department will apply corrective action and expand training to prevent similar incidents. Reporters ask for specifics. The chief continues. The officer will receive a suspension of 45 days without pay, mandatory completion of the communication and de-escalation program, and reassignment away from street duty until he completes evaluations with the training unit. The department will adopt a standard spoken script for stops and will conduct monthly audits for compliance. We will also publish a 1-page guide for the public on what to expect during stops. He looks up. This is not the end of the work. It is the start of doing it the same way every time. Across town, Amara reads the same page posted on the department website. She had been told the outcome earlier that morning in a short, respectful call. She sits by the window with a cup of tea cooling in her hands and lets the words settle. She does not feel triumph or bitterness. She feels relief that the steps were followed and a firm, quiet hope that habits will change because people chose to practice them, not because one person held a title. She sends a brief message to the facilitator from the restorative session, "Thank you for your steady work." The reply comes back almost at once, "Thank you for your steady voice." At the precinct, Hale receives formal notice of the discipline. He signs where he needs to sign. He does not argue. He knows the findings are correct. He also receives his training schedule, classroom sessions on policy, communication practice in simulated noisy spaces, and ride-alongs with the veteran officer who is known for turning hard moments into calm ones with a few well-placed words. The first session is that very afternoon. He arrives 10 minutes early with a notebook and an open mind, because if he is going to carry this weight, he wants it to become muscle, not just burden. The training room is busy in a focused way. On one wall, a large screen shows short video clips, officers beginning stops at different distances and volumes. Another corner holds speakers playing layers of city noise, bus brakes, wind, crosswalk chirps, a crowd hum. On a table, a stack of small cards displays the script in bold letters, "Hello, I'm officer ______. The reason I'm stopping you is ______. Do you need me to repeat it?" The training director does not treat the card like a magic spell. She treats it like the start of a conversation that gives the other person a clear place to stand. Hale practices the script with a partner while the noise runs high. He starts too fast the first time. The director stops him gently. "Breathe once before you speak," she says. "Give your words room." He tries again. "Hello, I'm Officer Hale. The reason I'm stopping you is that this area is closed for filming today. Do you need me to repeat it?" The director nods. "Better. Now say it over the sound of 2 buses and a leaf blower." He smiles, a small, rueful smile that does not hide his effort. He speaks. He breathes. He speaks again. By the end of the hour, the sentence sits more easily in his mouth. It is not a trick. It is simply a habit being built. In the evening, the department posts the public guide online and prints copies for libraries, schools, and community centers. The sheet is 1 page, 2 sides, clean and readable. On one side, what to expect during a stop. It lists the clear reason, the officer's name, the right to ask for the reason to be repeated, and the expectation of a calm tone. On the other side, how to be a good witness. It suggests ways to observe safely, keep a respectful distance, record if you choose, do not interfere with medical care, save original files, and be willing to share with investigators. The teenager who filmed that morning tapes a copy to the refrigerator at home. His sister smiles. "This is how small pieces make a sturdy wall," she says. A week later, a community forum gathers again, not for protest but for practice. The training unit sets up stations. At 1, officers rehearse the script with volunteers who play the role of citizens in different moods: hurried, confused, upset, soft-spoken, hard of hearing. At another, volunteers try the role of officers, reading from the card and learning how it feels to carry responsibility and clarity at the same time. The bus driver brings a recording of engine noise from his route to make the practice real. The vendor brings a crate of oranges and water because he likes to feed people who are doing hard work. The college student brings her notes from the day of the incident, not to argue the past, but to show how careful records help the future. Amara attends quietly, sitting in the second row with her knee now fully healed. She watches the practice, the missteps, the improvements. During a break, a young recruit approaches her, nervous. "Ma'am," he says, "I want to say I learned a lot from your comm. I don't want to be someone who skips steps." Amara thanks him and says, "We all become what we practice. Practice clarity." The recruit nods as if he has been handed a small tool that fits perfectly in his pocket. The city's daily life goes on. People still miss buses, forget umbrellas, argue in coffee lines, and cheer at school games. They explain first habit does not make every day easy. It does not stop every mistake. But it lowers heat in small ways that matter. A person who knows why they are being stopped listens sooner. An officer who hears their own clear reason finds it easier to choose the next right step. Neighbors who understand both sides find it easier to stay and watch with care instead of turning away. The change is not a parade. It is a slow turning of the will toward a better lane. Months pass. Leaves change. On a cool morning, the training unit invites a new class of recruits for their first session on communication. The director begins not with rules, but with a story. She shows a clip with faces blurred, voice levels adjusted for clarity. She pauses at the moment where the officer could have spoken the reason and did not. She asks the room, "What sentence belongs here?" A dozen voices answer at once, not shouting, just "Sure, explain first." She smiles. "Now let's practice saying it when the world is loud." In the back row sits Hale, now returned to limited patrol with a partner and a clean record since the training. He does not try to fade into the wall. He raises his hand when the director asks for someone to speak about pressure and choice. He says, "There is a moment when you feel watched and rushed. That is the moment to breathe and tell the reason. If you cannot say the reason, you need to ask yourself what you're doing." He does not say this to make himself larger. He says it because he has learned that plain sentences can hold heavy lessons. After the session, he heads to the community center where the restorative facilitator hosts a follow-up circle for anyone who has participated in the new training: officers, volunteers, and citizens. Amara attends when she can, usually sitting near the window with a notebook. People share short stories of hard interactions that turned softer because one sentence arrived early. A teacher describes a traffic stop where the officer's first words were, "I'm stopping you because your tail light is out," and how her own heartbeat slowed as soon as she heard the reason. A street vendor tells of a morning when an officer explained a temporary sidewalk closure and helped him carry his crate instead of telling him to move it. These are small stories, but they build a long bridge. The department also publishes its audit results each month. The numbers include not only how often the reason was stated first, but also how often citizens asked for a reason and how well officers repeated it. If a squad falls short, the training unit does not shame them. It schedules another practice. The chief says at roll call, "We correct by doing, not by defending." One afternoon, a citywide youth summit invites Amara to speak about rights and responsibilities. She stands on the stage in a simple blue jacket, the same calm voice she used on the sidewalk now carrying across a room of students, coaches, and mentors. She tells the story without naming people or stirring heat. She says, "I did not reveal my job that day because I wanted the process to treat me like everyone else. That is the point of rights, they do not depend on titles." She holds up the public guide. This is not a shield for one person. It is a mirror for all of us. We look in it and ask, am I doing my part clearly, calmly, fairly? When she finishes, the students are quiet in the best way, the way that means they are thinking hard and storing something for later. Later that week, Amara walks to the community legal clinic again, tote on her shoulder, map folded inside, even though she now knows the route by heart. The front door opens easily today. Inside, a line of visitors waits with simple but important problems, forms, fees, dates, deadlines. She sits at a small table and begins to help, one page at a time. The work is not dramatic, it is steady and kind. During a quiet moment, the teenager who filmed the original encounter stops by with his sister. They have been volunteering at the clinic on weekends. He grins. "I got into the media ethics class," he says. "I want to learn how to hold a story without twisting it." Amara congratulates him. "Keep doing the careful work," she says. "That is how cities get better." Across the street, the bus driver pulls up and gives a small wave. The vendor stacks oranges into a bright pyramid and calls out the price with a cheerful voice. The cyclist slows at the corner, checks the light, and rolls on. Life keeps its gentle, stubborn rhythm. In that rhythm, one detail has changed. When officers speak to people on the street now, the first sentence is usually a reason, and the second is usually an offer to repeat it. It is not fancy. It is not loud. It is a short bridge built from one person to another. On a quiet evening, Amara takes the paper map from her tote at home. The small smear on the corner is still there, a tiny gray mark that will not come off. She does not try to scrub it away. She smooths the creases with her palm and folds the map along its old lines until it makes a tidy rectangle. She places it on a shelf next to the little free library books she plans to share. The map is not a trophy. It is a reminder, directions matter, especially the ones we give out loud before we ask others to follow them. Before bed, she receives an email from the training director. It contains a short video from that day's class, a recruit speaking the reason clearly over the sound of buses and wind, then pausing to ask, "Do you need me to repeat it?" The director writes, "Thought you should see how the sentence lives now." Amara watches once, smiles, and replies with two words that feel exactly right, "It helps." In another part of the city, Hale finishes his shift and writes a final note in his pocketbook. It is not long. Explain first. Breathe. Listen. He closes the book and sits for a moment in the quiet of the locker room. He knows he cannot undo the morning that brought him here. He also knows that the work after a mistake can become a gift if you carry it forward for others. He puts the notebook in his bag and heads out into the evening air, which smells faintly of rain and warm bread from a bakery down the block, the same kind of air that began this story. The city sleeps, wakes, steps into new days. The habits built in meeting rooms and sidewalks keep weaving themselves into daily life. People still disagree, still make errors, still need second chances. But in this place, at this time, a simple sentence stands at the front of many hard moments like a helpful sign on a busy corner: pointing the way, explain first. And because people keep saying it, practicing it, and expecting it, the city keeps finding its way, one clear reason, one steady breath, one better choice at a time.